Hello everyone, it is that time of week for some Q&A fun, and thanks once again to all of you that submitted your questions via Twitter. I'm splitting the weekly Q&A up into two parts. Part 1 is going to deal primarily with NFL related talk, and then part 2, the second video for the weekly Q&A, is going to be about the NBA, MLB, other things out there in the world, so it should be fun. But here goes part 1. Matt Holtman kicks us off by asking, does Roquan Smith equal Patrick Willis and Danny Trevathan equal Navarro Bowman for the Chicago Bears? I don't think Trevathan is quite Navarro Bowman. Certainly the Bears hope and envision that Roquan Smith becomes equivalent to Patrick Willis. That said, Willis to me was a little more physical, a little nastier. But there are similarities there in terms of size, in terms of athletic profile, and we saw what Patrick Willis did in Vic Fangio's system in San Francisco, so you're hoping he could do the same thing. Let's hope that is the case for sure. Ben Carroll, what rookie are you most interested in seeing play this year? Besides the quarterbacks. And there obviously is going to be great interest in seeing these different quarterbacks and starting to piece together who's got it, who doesn't, who was right, who was wrong, because that's always fun. I'll go selfishly with the Chicago Bears, and I look at Roquan Smith, James Daniels, and Anthony Miller. Those are the rookies that I care the most about. They're the ones that I'm most interested in seeing outside of the quarterbacks taken around number 1. For selfish reasons solely. Samaj Anderson. How do you think the Cardinals season will go? The truth? Mediocre to somewhat bad? Somewhere between 5 to 7 wins? I don't see a lot of reason to be incredibly hopeful or optimistic for the Cardinals, but the NFL is such a crapshoot from year in and year out. Who knows? New head coach. Maybe they do better. I just don't see it. To me, they're a team that seems like they're destined for a top 10, if not top 5 pick in 2019's draft. London is red. Will Khalil, Mack, and Aaron Donald sign contract extensions before training camp, or could they hold out? You would have to think, if you're the general managers, Reggie McKenzie in Oakland, Les Snead in Los Angeles with the Rams, that you've got to do everything you can to get these deals done now. Because A, do you want them to hold out? Or B, do you want to have to automatically stick the franchise tag on them next year, which you know you'd be inclined to do? Then do you want to deal with the animus that could potentially arise out of that? And then still, at some point in time, you're going to have to eventually bite the bullet and give these future Hall of Famers massive contract extensions. I can't see why the two sides are so far apart. I can't see why it can't get done. They've both got to be signed before training camp starts in July. They've got to. I can't at this point imagine that both teams would risk their seasons potentially by having these guys hold out on them for any extended period of time. And to do so would be absolutely ridiculous. At this point in time, if you have to overpay a little bit to hurry up and get it done, you overpay and you hurry up and get it done. These guys are special players. Those are the guys that you actually break the bank for. Find a way, make it happen. Josh Bros. Should this be Andy Dalton's last year in Cincinnati if he doesn't win a playoff game? The second Marvin Lewis is finally, whenever mercifully gone, should be the time that Andy Dalton is also done. And will Marvin Lewis make it through his 2-year extension? We'll see. No reason to believe he wouldn't at this point. But in all honesty, if Dalton doesn't win a playoff game this year, you should really be exploring drafting a quarterback early in 2019, absolutely. It should, in theory, be his last year as the unquestioned starter, if nothing else. iFraz asks, will the Patriots end up using Isaiah Wynn at left tackle or inside at guard? I have to believe, with the hole created by Nate Solder departing in free agency, that Isaiah Wynn's going to be given every opportunity to win that left tackle job. I still feel like that's perhaps his best position for the Patriots. That's where I expect him to ultimately stick and be just fine. I feel like left tackle because, to me, I felt like, honestly, center was a better fit for him than guard. if it wasn't going to be left tackle. You got to go with him at left tackle. Mike Schmidt. Can the Lakers sign LeBron James and Paul George and compete with Golden State? Here's the interesting thing about that. Is let's say, for argument's sake, they were able to bring in both LeBron and Paul George. Obviously, the Lakers improve. They improve probably quite a bit. But then here comes the issue. What do you do with Kuzma? What do you do with Brandon Ingram? Now, you still have them on their rookie deal, so there's no real urgency to put them anywhere. But are you going to play LeBron at the 4 full-time and Paul George at the 3 full-time, or vice versa? Are you going to play Brandon Ingram at the 2? That seems like a pretty big ask. How does that impact Lonzo Ball and his development? Now you're resorting to bringing Kuzma off the bench, which could potentially be capping his upside. I don't know if they automatically compete with Golden State, because I'm not sure I would like the construction of the team with both LeBron and Paul George. Maybe they would have a chance, but I don't know if they would have enough to beat them. That's for sure. Ronnie Simmons. If you ranked all the wide receivers from the 2014 draft class taken in the first 2 rounds, how would they rank? Now I got to remember every single wide receiver taken in the first 2 rounds. I'm trying to go in order as much as possible, so bear with me if I missed a guy or missed a slot, but I think I'll get everybody. Watkins went 4, Evans went 7, OBJ went 12, Cooks went 20, was Kelvin Benjamin 28, something like that. Then in round 2, you had Marquise Lee, yes, Jordan Matthews, Christ, what was it? Paul Richardson, I think that's what it was. Then Devontae Adams, Cody Latimer, Allen Robinson, Jarvis Landry. I think it was a total of 12 guys taken in those first 2 rounds. Like I said, if memory serves me correctly, and I believe it does. And if I had to rank them, it would be OBJ 1, Mike Evans 2, probably Brandon Cooks 3, Devontae Adams 4, Jarvis Landry 5, Allen Robinson 6, Sammy Watkins 7, Kelvin Benjamin 8, Marquise Lee 9, Jordan Matthews 10, Paul Richardson 11, and bringing up the butt-naked ass rears, Cody Latimer. Imagine being the Broncos in round 2 in that historic, epic, all-time great wide receiver class. And in the first 2 rounds, you're the only team that drafts a certified bust. Like, all these other guys have contributed in some way, shape, or form. All of these guys have shown flashes. All of these guys have done something. Latimer is a nothing. Like, 11 out of 12 guys made it, you could say. What the hell did Latimer ever do? That's bad on John Elway and the Broncos. Because even in, like, round 3, you had Dante Moncrief and John Brown. You had undrafted guys like Willie Snead and Alan Hearns. And good Lord. It was a historically great wide receiver class. And somebody took Cody Latimer in round 2. Oopsie daisies. Anyways, but that's probably how I would rank them. Alex Saida. Will you please do a 32-team NFL power ranking? You know what? I probably will do power rankings this year. The first one I'll do will probably be right before the season starts, because I'll be trying to squeeze that in as I'm doing the team-by-team previews for 2018, which, of course, I will be doing in August, in case you were wondering. Space Cowboy 17. Which NFL team has the best chance of going from worst to first this year? I think that's a combination of the improvement within their team combined with decline in other teams, maybe weaker competition. First one that stands out would be the Houston Texans, because if Watson's healthy the entire year, Merciless, J.J. Watt are healthy the entire year, they are nowhere near a 4-win team. And they've shown in the past they can beat the Jags, the Titans, and the Colts. So that would be one. Although, I stand corrected, it was the Colts who were last place, god dang it, in the AFC South. And I'll go with the Colts. Either way, even if it was the Texans, which it wasn't, and it was the Colts, which it was, one of those 2 teams I look at, those are the most obvious answers to me, along with potentially the San Francisco 49ers. So I'd say Colts in the AFC, 49ers in the NFC. Where are we going next, since I botched the hell out of that one? Jose the Slump God. You probably need a slump buster. Would James Daniels realistically be a better fit for the Bears system than Quentin Nelson? No, I don't think so, because the Bears' offensive line coach was Quentin Nelson's offensive line coach at Notre Dame. So no, I don't think Daniels is a better fit. Doesn't mean Daniels can't be good or really good. I'm surprised they're trying him out at guard first. I would have thought they would have stuck him at center, but so be it. I still think he could play there, although I feel like he plays better at center. But Nelson would have been a better fit because he was a better talent and he's familiar with the coach. Spencer Carpin, what's the Los Angeles Chargers ceiling this season, and can they win the AFC West? I think that's their ceiling this year, is winning the division and getting a home playoff game. I like the construction of the Chargers. I think they have a chance to win that division. Tyrone, which NFL teams do you expect to regress this season? It's really, really hard to repeat in the NFL, so by nature, maybe the Philadelphia Eagles a little bit. Perhaps the Jacksonville Jaguars a little bit. Who else? Maybe the Rams just a tad. Who else do I expect to regress? Maybe the Chiefs just a little bit. Yeah, those would be some of the teams I could think of. Josh Grantham, which non-rookie in the NFL is primed for a breakout season? Ironically enough, I'll go back to the Chiefs with Patrick Mahomes and also my Chicago Bears with Mitchell Trubisky. These are guys that are getting the opportunity. Trubisky's got a lot more help around him on the offensive side of the ball, and Mahomes comes into a situation with a coach who knows what he's doing with quarterbacks and Andy Reid, and talent on that side of the ball with Tyreek Hill and Travis Kelce and Kareem Hunt and a solid offensive line. I like the prospects of those two guys being able to have a bit of a breakout season. Matt Fevish, will the Bears be better than the Lions or the Packers this year? I'd feel confident in betting that they'll end up better than the Lions. The Packers, I'm not so sure just yet. Jeff's Ego, the 10 best players not in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Great, excellent question. I know this is a topic you love to talk about, and I like talking about it too. When you say best, the one thing I hesitate with is that could lead to some recency for some really, really great players that didn't get the call the first or second time around, but they'll get in pretty soon. So I'm trying to leave those guys off. So I'm going to take your question in a slightly different direction. The 10 most deserving at this point in time. Guys that have been overlooked for a long time for a variety of different reasons. That's really, really hard to figure out. In terms of those type of guys, I'm looking at Tommy Nobis, Chuck Howley, former Bears linebacker, remember the 50s all-decade team, Joe Fortunato, Del Schaffner, Johnny Robinson. Like, when you talk about great players not in the Hall of Fame, Johnny Robinson, the safety from the Chiefs, always gets left out of the conversation for reasons that are unbeknownst to me. A couple more wide receivers like Harold Carmichael and Cliff Branch, who I think in part have their stock hurt because of the numbers that wide receivers put up in today's game. Roger Craig, Ken Anderson. I'll throw out another name for you. Former Washington Redskins tight end Jerry Smith. When you look at his numbers and Charlie Sanders of the Lions in that similar time frame, both in the Sanders in the Pro Football Hall of Fame, Jerry Smith's numbers are in line. And I don't know if he was left out because he was gay, because he died of AIDS in the mid-'80s. I don't know what the reasons are. But if Charlie Sanders is in, Jerry Smith should be in, period. A couple other people I'll throw out there. I look at Kenny Washington and Woody Strode, who helped reintegrate the game of football in the U.S. in 1946. Marion Motley and Bill Willis are in the Hall of Fame based off of the merits of their career. I would really like to see Kenny Washington and Woody Strode get that chance too. Even though their careers in and of themselves were not Hall of Fame worthy in terms of production, the impact, meaning, and significance of what they did to reintegrate the game of football, I feel like, hey, we got other questionable guys already in the Hall of Fame. Why not put in these two guys that help blaze a trail that many other people have been able to capitalize on? And they weren't the Jackie Robinson of their sport. Jackie Robinson was the Kenny Washington, Woody Strode, Marion Motley, Bill Willis of his sport, because these guys did it first. Yeah, I know Fritz Pollard did it in the 20s, but because of the Redskins owner in the 30s, George Preston Marshall, he was able to keep the game segregated starting in 33 for a little over a decade. These guys helped break that back down. So I feel like they deserve to be in. I also look at coaches like Don Coryell and Marty Schottenheimer. When you look at Coryell and his influence over the game, it's hard to top that legacy in terms of true impact. Talking about the coaching tree with Joe Gibbs, talking about the offensive influences. Then you look at Marty Schottenheimer, who did really, really good things with the Cleveland Browns and the Kansas City Chiefs and the San Diego Chargers. I know he never made it to a Super Bowl. He never won a Super Bowl. But damn it, that was a really good coach for a really, really long time. And it's a shame he doesn't get more credit and respect for the good things that he did. And then, of course, when we talk about the best not to be in the Hall of Fame, numero uno is Steve Sabol. Nobody had the impact on the growth of the game of football that NFL Films did. Period. It's why there's an NFL Network now. It's why they have this. It's why they have that. It's why they have so many things. It's because of NFL Films and his dad, Ed Sabol, and, of course, Steve Sabol. You can't tell me that this guy shouldn't have already been in the Hall of Fame. He should have been in there a long time ago. And the fact that he isn't is a joke and a crime and a travesty. And I will continue to say it every damn year until he's gotten in. Period. Because when you go off a resume, and again, when you go off of impact and talk about the growth of football on a national and international basis, you can argue no two men had a greater impact or influence, screw the commissioners and the players, than Ed and Steve Sabol. It took way too damn long for Ed to finally get his place. Steve deserves his place in his moment. And Falcons Fury closes us out by asking, does a player of Julio Jones' caliber deserve to ask for a new contract? Number one, it never hurts to ask. Number two, he's a stud. Number three, he's looking at trying to get as much money for himself as he can while he can, and I don't blame him for that. So absolutely, he deserves the right to ask for a new contract. It does not mean that the Falcons need to listen or oblige him, but he has earned and merited that right to ask for a new contract. I completely agree with you. He absolutely deserves to ask. He really deserves one too, but the Falcons don't have to give it to him. But he's earned that right to ask for sure. So anyways, that's it for this portion of the weekly Q&A. Thanks for you guys' questions. They were good. Check back in a little bit later for part 2 of this where I talk about other things, sports and non-sports related. Stay tuned.